Hello, welcome to This Is My Offer episode. I'm Ronak Shah, Partner Solutions Architect in Retail and CPG. I've been working with Pivotree for more than a year now, and uh, Gustavo, looking forward to talking with you today. Can you introduce yourself and give some more insight into Pivotree?
Hey, good morning, Ronak. It's nice to be with you and with AWS, and thank you so much for this invitation. A quick introduction about myself and Pivotree. So, first of all, my name is Gustavo Chavez, and I lead our supply chain product sales here at Pivotree. If you haven't heard of Pivotree, what we do is help design, build, and manage complex digital platforms across commerce, data management, supply chain management for over 250 major retail branded manufacturers and distributors all over the world. We rely, or customers actually rely on our ability to help them with strategic planning, implementation, support, professional services. More recently, I think what has us really excited is some of the new products that we have developed for customers, listening to feedback and gaps in the market that we've observed. And we're really excited to talk about our WMS today. As another FYI, we're headquartered in Toronto, Canada, where I am based out of, even though today I am currently in Phoenix attending a conference.
Nice and sunny.
Nice and
Okay,
sunny.
thank you. Thank you, Gustav. So the solution we are going to talk about today is Pivotree's composable warehouse management system, WMS. Uh, to set the context, let's see visually, right, where WMS fits in. So at the bottom, as a customer, when customer place an order, and obviously this is retail context, on customer places the order on the website passes on to the system to say, from where I'm going to fulfill from, and that system going to pass it on to uh, a physical location. It could be a warehouse, distribution center, or a large department store settings where WMS, or warehouse management system, is the software which makes running of that warehouse efficient by providing uh, the goods in, goods out. But overall, as a user, you place an order, you get something at your home, and that last part where you get it from is that's where the warehouse management system works. So that's a bit of a context, but I'd love to know more about it and understand Pivotree's solution from you, Gustavo, if you want to add more elaborate on the solution.
Absolutely, Ronak. So I think what's you just called out something really important, right? When us as consumers, we buy from any brand that we love online, we pick something up in store or what have you. We don't really care how things get to our front door, right? We just care that it gets there on time, that we got the right item, that there's no issues with the packaging or the item in terms of being damaged or anything like that. But in order for that to happen properly, there's so many little steps before that need to happen, with a ton of precision and a ton of thought and logic behind it. So what a warehouse management system, or a WMS for short, can achieve for a customer is it allows organizations to gain complete control over their entire fulfillment process. Sorry, with warehouse capabilities that are relatively advanced, depending on how much advanced capabilities are required, how much of that, but also simple enough for that to be user friendly, to have an interface that is intuitive, dashboards that are help increase effectiveness and efficiency in terms of managing the warehouse process, move large volumes of inventory, etc. So, what we've built on AWS is a SaaS-based platform that is microservices based, API first, obviously cloud native. So we're really excited about what we have built here at Pivotree.
It's great. Can you dive a little bit deep into what sort of pain and challenges this solution solves, and what's the kind of differentiation? I see, like, the composable as an key piece, but what are other customer challenges this helps to solve, right? Like, you know, volume of cancel order or the warehouse efficiency. If you can pinpoint few, that would be great.
Of course, you use the word composable, and I think it's important in this context. We have learned from our customers that you don't always need a full blown WMS platform as a retailer. Right, we're talking about this in the context of retail. You may need to augment your shipping capabilities, or to fine tune your receiving process, and perhaps you already have a system in place that does things relatively well, but you need to augment it. So that's where microservice comes in. So the ability to give the customer more flexibility and more agility without having to have a significant rip and replace project, or even to have to build a business case to do that entirely, right? So the having the discrete capabilities to augment the customer's processes, and to support their operation is something that we have built, right? So what does that effectively allow us to do? So one of the challenges that we see is a lot of the current systems, or we refer to them as legacy systems,
Yeah,
are
the blue
fairly.
screen one, right?
The blue screens, exactly. The ones that are not the most exciting things to look at in the world. But of course, right? So that's pretty much what warehouse workers are used to utilizing when they're operating inside a warehouse. So, yes, we focus on the UI, and we'll get into that in a moment, but there's an efficiency to run warehouse processes. Again, we talked about receiving or shipping, or the outbound piece. So what we've done is just build that a really robust shipping and a really robust receiving component, for instance, to augment those particular parts of the process, those particular flows, um, when it comes to a warehouse. So ultimately, what that allows a customer to do is to deploy those discrete microservices, and have access to potentially just those things to be able to gain some effectiveness. Another
So,
problem. Go ahead.
so what you're saying is, let's say, this very large department store, and to ship faster, retailer is shipping from store close to the user, and if they just need pick pack
That's
as
right.
an full blown functionality, they can just use that.
Absolutely. We actually have a customer that stood up like a pop up warehouse to augment their capacity to be able to run an operation in a more remote location. So the ability to do that very quickly, and to just focus on the pieces that were necessary for that customer, are they really helped us achieve significant results in customer satisfaction, and obviously the customers delighted, because now they know they have a toolkit, right, of technologies and microservices that can either be used discretely, or can ultimately come together to be a very powerful end-to-end warehouse management system. But another problem the customers have, Ronak, is inventory visibility, looking at carrying costs and the accumulation of just essentially a lot of costs inside the warehouse that is preventing the customer from being profitable, from increasing their bottom line. So one of the things that we're seeing, right, is there are disparate systems. There's typically you have an ERP, you have you may have a PIM, you may have a number of different warehouse management systems. So it's actually not uncommon to see a customer using multiple ones, especially if they grow by merger and acquisition. What we're able to do here is we're able to also consolidate all of that, improve that inventory accuracy, reduce the overstock, reduce the inventory carrying costs, offer seasonal inventory as well. So similar to the ability to develop a warehouse that is, call it seasonal. So we just talked about Black Friday happening last week. Potentially a customer would have wanted to augment their warehouse footprint, right? So distribution center footprint across the board with potentially mini DCs. But it's not just the capability, but also the inventory could be offered seasonally as well, right? Or could be offered by specific location that way. So it helps us also lower unnecessary restocking, improve labor efficiency, and more importantly, reduce errors that ultimately end up impacting customer experience, right? So you're able to get real-time visibility and traceability for the products that are moving through the warehouse, but also once they leave the warehouse as well.
Mhm. So provide an inventory picture to OMS system, which then can use that information to make better fulfillment decision, or even the website can show more accurate information.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Can't wait to actually dive into demo. But before we go into demo, let's look at the AWS architecture, which allows Pivotree WMS as a SaaS solutions with uh, we just talked about Black Friday or pop-up warehouse where you can scale up and down, take advantage of truly the cloud's capability for retailers peak load. Gustavo, why don't you take us through a quick demo?
Yeah, I would love to show a few screens. So what we have here is our main dashboard. So we log into the Pivotree warehouse management system. This is the first thing you see. One important call out is whatever you have here is customized to your role. So for example, you see at the top right of the screen that it says that I'm a warehouse manager for distribution center 1. So if you have multiple distribution centers, you can actually log into the different nodes and look at the different distribution centers that are running different data. More importantly as well, right? Maybe because of my role and the way that, maybe my boss is looking for me to report on certain things and paying more attention to other things, I can also just configure this dashboard by just dragging and dropping um, components of the screen to make it look exactly the way that I want to, right? So these are all customizable. And I think what's really important is that these settings get saved as well for the next time I show up. So I don't have to be reconfiguring this every single time. On
Well,
the right side of the screen. Oh, sorry, Ronak, what was that?
no, I'm saying, well, this is not a blue screen. I mean, much modern interface, and I'm going back to my days in warehouse, but I love it.
No, it's a good call out, right? I think that's probably one of the things that is understated is the user experience aspect of this. Of course, we talk about the end consumer getting a good experience by all of this working perfectly well, but we also think about our end consumer as Pivotree, being the folks that are actually utilizing this platform and making sure that what we have here is intuitive and easy to learn, and easy to get people onboarded. And if somebody needs to change to another warehouse, they can see that. And also, again, that you're just seeing the relevant information for you as opposed to just a full blown set of feature and functions that might be overkill, right? So if you're a warehouse worker, or maybe if you're just in receiving, what if we just kind of boxed in your experience to make it much more pointed? And that's very easy to do, right? Just to give you a sense, on the right side, we have things like alerts, right? So for example, if we have any shortages in stock, for example, or any exceptions, all of this would come in here as well. So we can have quick access to that. And we can also favorite certain screens in the platform that we want to save for future, almost as shortcuts. Now, we talked about microservices a little bit early on, right? And I think what's really important is the experience that a user will have when they access the platform will be tailored to the functionalities or capabilities that they need. In this instance, right, I am a warehouse manager. I actually have access to all the bells and whistles, but this would look very different, to your point, if somebody just needed pick and pack, right? Pick, pack, and ship. Um, that would look very, very different. So the modules, the microservices that are actually represented in here on this left panel, and if you had a different experience, then you wouldn't necessarily have to get access to, say, transfers or value added service potentially, or maybe returns. Yes, but again, the experience is customized to the flows and the processes of our clients, so that every customer, but also every user within that customer base, gets access to exactly what it is that they need. So, for instance, I can go into the shipments section under my inbound module, and I can have a quick look at what we have here in terms of shipments. One important call out, right? All of this is built on, all of this is mobile responsive. So when we think about a receiving process potentially, this platform could be easily or seamlessly rather displayed on any sort of mobile device that has an internet connection. So if you're looking at an iOS device or any sort of Android device, for instance, that are pretty common in warehouses, then this would automatically just respond to the screen size and work with from a scanning perspective, so we don't have to integrate with a third-party scanner, perhaps, right? Like, I think that's the that's the added advantage of having a mobile UI that is responsive to this as well. All of this is also customizable. Again, we talked about columns, for instance, here, the status, the shipments that get created, or the vendors, or who's actually the seller for these things. And we have a way to just customize which columns do I want to see, right? So on the left side, I can look at, for instance, do I care about the ship mode, or the the tracking number, for instance, or the shipment type. And then once I apply it, all of this would essentially just get customized to be reflected as such. For the next time that I come in as a user, it'll remember what I want to see, what I care about the most.
This looks great, Gustavo. Now, is there other use cases or other customers who would benefit from this solution, Gustavo? Like third-party logistics company who supports retailer?
Absolutely, Ronak. It's a good question. So as I said, when we first introduced the platform today, we work with a number of retailers, yes, but we also work with distributors, manufacturers, and what's interesting is also the importance of servicing third-party logistics companies that you just kind of alluded to. Um, it's extremely important, and when we think of the retail seasonality aspect of it, we talked about adding capacity in terms of inventory. We talked about adding capacity in terms of warehouse process. But what about the actual fulfillment piece, right? And how do the retailers get these things done when they work with partners in the 3PL space? So what's really interesting is, while they work really closely with the retailers and they want to satisfy their customers, they also have a completely different way of running the business. So, for example, a 3PL we work with, they basically say, look, we're going to be experiencing we're doing well as a business, we're expanding, we have customer growth, we have greater volumes, we expect more complex customer requirements, all good problems to have, right? So they need to be able to scale. But on top of that, things like 3PL billing can be pretty complex. So things like the activities that need to be tracked at the customer level and build in compliance with individual customer agreements, all of that becomes pretty challenging if we don't have a solution that does that in a pretty effortless way, right? Especially if it needs to be adjusted quickly, right? If you happen to win the business with a retailer to support them fairly last minute for whatever reason, obviously good for you, but then how do you support it? So that needs to be done, right? And what Pivotree WMS does is address the 3PL's needs, but always in the context of what the retailer, the end customer, requires.
That's great. And being like, ability to spin up the tenant in SaaS solution, it's just easy. That's great.
So
Hey, thank you, Gustav, for joining me today. And we'll have the link for AWS Marketplace offering in the description of the video. But before we end, would like to add any final comment.
thank you for having me, Ronak. It's always a pleasure to work with you and the AWS team. If there's anyone interested in learning more about Pivotree WMS, please feel free to go to pivotree.com/WMS, and you'll get a ton of information there, and you'll be able to contact our team.